This developing story, let's get over live to our correspondent, Stefan De Vries, who's standing by for us. So, Stefan, what more can you tell us?
Well, it comes not as a surprise, the resignation. It is actually the result of a very long process, a big scandal here in the Netherlands, where the government knew that thousands of families were targeted wrongfully by the tax services. They were accused of having frauded with child benefits. This was not true. They had no chance to defend themselves, and nevertheless they had to pay back thousands and thousands of euros to the tax services wrongfully, and that led to, for instance, people losing their jobs, had to sell their houses, even divorces, and all the time the government knew what was going on. Now, there was a parliamentary inquiry and the conclusion was just released just before Christmas, so the government took some time to reflect on that conclusion, and the conclusion was very, very hard. It said that Prime Minister Mark Rutte and his ministers had knowingly violated the basic principles of the rule of law. So, of course, this is a very heavy accusation to the government. The government knew that the tax services was doing acting wrongfully. Also, many of the reports by the tax services were based on ethnic profiling, so it has also a racist character. And when yesterday the chief of the Labour Party, the opposition, resigned because of this affair, the Prime Minister Mark Rutte had no other option than to offer his resignation to the Dutch King this afternoon as well. So it's a complex matter. It took some time, and it means that now the Dutch will not have a government. It will be a caretaker government only. But there were already elections planned in March, so it's also a symbolic resignation, but nevertheless very important, and it really is an earthquake in Dutch politics today.
Indeed, felt across Europe, Stefan. So talk about the timing of this, because it is interesting. You mentioned the elections are just in 2 months. So what happens now?
Well, what happens now is that this government will continue mostly dealing with current affairs, and well, that's mostly, of course, the pandemic and how to deal with the pandemic, vaccination, etc. They can do that. So they cannot no longer plan any new policies. So they are a caretaker government. That is something that they would have become on the 15th of March, so in just 2 months from now, because the usual general elections were planned on that date. Strangely enough, this scandal is really shocking a lot of the Dutch, but Mark Rutte is also the leader of his party, the VVD, and that party is on top of the polls for this election. So this is the third government of Mark Rutte that he finishes today, but it is very likely that after the 15th of March there will be a fourth government of Mark Rutte, so he will not really be damaged, but it is a very symbolic step, an important step for tens of thousands of people who have been, well, damaged by the state.